Hey guys, BrettFX here, and this is going to be my thoughts and impressions, just real quick going down over some of the topics. I'm going to have some more in-depth videos later. But first of all, I do want to appreciate EA for sending me a code. Props to those guys. I am a part of the Game Changers program, and been a part of it for a while, and it's a good program, guys. I think it's going to be open for public applications, so definitely go check out the website for that. Anywho, let's get on into it. So, Battlefield 5 Alpha has just launched. It just ended. It was about 5 days worth of oh so much goodness, especially if you were a classic Battlefield player, I think. Battlefield 1, really just not doing it for a lot of people, myself included. And I think that this game right here is a good step, a good direction for the Battlefield franchise to go into. So first of all, and I think this is what most of the people who are going to follow my channel are going to be wondering, is gunplay. How is gunplay? Well, gunplay is pretty damn good. It's not perfect. It definitely needs some tweaks. There's some things that could be changed here and there. But overall, the gunplay feels good. It's very reminiscent of what we had, I would say, in like tapfire-wise, like Battlefield 3. But you got some kind of crazy recoil in there that's kind of, I don't know. I'd say Battlefield 3-ish is probably the best kind of description I could say, just because once you get the tap fire down, that's what it really feels like. Ammo scarcity is definitely another one that you guys have, I've seen people on forums talking about. And I will say this, it is rough, and I think that they're going to change this. Don't quote me on this, but I think they will, because I was looking at some of the feedback on it. I don't think they need to make it too drastic of a change. It does need to be bumped up a little bit, but overall, it did feel pretty damn good to have to actually monitor your ammo supply. You had to go look for support. You had to go look for crates. And I know some people don't like the idea of having depots on flags because they're like, well, that's an objective that you shouldn't have to fight over. But secondary objectives are what makes Battlefield fun, and they've been there in the past before, and I might get into that into another video, but they've been in the past before for other Battlefield games. No suppression, at the very least, not in the sense that we've had it in the past. So far, suppression is only visual, at least as far as I can tell and as far as what I've seen confirmed. I hope that it stays that way. I was talking to a guy earlier who had actually looked at some of the files, and he said that the values are still in there so they could tweak them, but hopefully they don't. Yeah, no suppression in there for the gunfights. It feels good to be able to go into a one-on-one gunfight and not have to worry about that. It is strictly going to be on your skill alone, and I did have some moments where I just out and out won a gunfight over a guy because I was a better shot, and it felt really good. The classes felt pretty good, although I do think that they need a little bit of tweaks in terms of their usage, how useful they can be, and it wouldn't be that much, but I'll be probably making a video on that as well. The medic is back to being more fun, and I want to stress fun and effective on the battlefield. So in Battlefield 1, the medic was definitely effective. He could do his job, yes, but it wasn't very fun to play him. Were there players out there that could rack up lots of kills? Yes, I was one of them. I could take a DMR and I could go out there with the best of them and I could top frag. But it wasn't that fun for me. It felt like a lot of work, unnecessary work, and I didn't get to play, I think, the medic role the way it was supposed to be played, which is a front line. You can deal damage, but also get those revives, get those heals in. And I felt that in Battlefield 5. It felt like I could do that again. So I was very, very happy with that. Revive mechanics are very, very fun. I like the way that it forces you to have to actually choose when you're going to go revive guys, not just go out there and just boom, 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 and all of a sudden you got 10 people that are all up and alive and ready to go. It does take some time, some thought. Smoke grenades are definitely something that you're going to be using to try and go out and get those revives, and I believe the pulling mechanic or the dragging mechanic is going to come into play as well. I do think that there are some changes, and there are some changes that have been made to the reviving, like the standing still for a second after you get a revive. That's been tweaked from what I can understand. So, you know, very good mechanic. We'll get some tweaks later on. Health regen felt amazing. This is a guy, I came from classic Battlefield where there was no health regen. You had to go for health packs. So seeing this kind of come back, I love it. Battlefield 3, when I was a competitive player, we had no health regen. So I played hours and hours and hours and hours and hours, thousands of hours in private servers with no health regen. That's the way I love playing, and it's somewhat back now with the limited health regen. So I really like to see this stay. I don't think it needs change. It felt good just the way it was. So I'd like to see it change, or see it stay. I do not like Grand Operations. I think Grand Operations is a horrible game mode. It felt like a meat grinder the entire time. I didn't like Operations in Battlefield 1, and I don't like Operations in Battlefield 5. I don't think that's going to change. In my opinion, Rush could use, they could utilize that very linear play, because once you had one objective, the objective was gone, and you could focus in on the second objective. With Operations, you're constantly having to defend and attack on those particular flags, and to be honest with you, very rarely did you ever have a team that actually worked together and had a close game. It was either a stomp one way or a stomp the other way. You either completely obliterated the team in attack, or you held them off at the very start of the objectives, and that was it. I didn't have any good close gameplays with Operations, so that mode to me is just bad. Conquest is fun though. It looks like the old ticket system is back, although I do have some doubts until I can actually get into a server and test it out. I think maybe the values need to be tweaked a little bit on tickets, but it does feel a lot better than what it did in Battlefield 1. I will say that. When we were dominating the game, we were dominating the game. You know, it wasn't none of this, oh, we beat the shit out of them the entire time, but still it was 100 tickets close. No, if we beat the crap out of them, it showed. It was like 400, 450, 500 tickets. So that definitely felt good in that regard. Vehicles. So vehicles didn't have a big play in this game. I think the total amount of vehicles that could be on the map at once were like 8. You could have 2 planes per side, and a tank per side, and then a half-track per side. May have been 2 tanks. I'm not sure, but it wasn't a whole lot of vehicles, and the vehicles felt very weak in terms of what they could do to infantry players. Now, this is coming from an infantry player, so I'm not advocating for tanks to be massively buffed up, but it did feel like they needed a little bit of something to help them get out of spawn, because pretty much they were just locked in at that back flag. So I'd like to see maybe tanks and airplanes get a little bit reworked. Maybe the spotting system for vehicles could be changed a little bit, and maybe the armor for tanks could be buffed up. The spotting system overall, for the infantry players at least, felt fantastic. I loved it. You didn't have a whole lot of dots on your screen. You were really trying to focus in on where players were at. I do think the passive spotting needs to be toned down just a bit, because there were some instances where I was looking through smoke and boom, I was able to pick up some passive spots, and that should be a no-no. If there's smoke down, you should not be able to see it. That's another thing that I think needs to be reworked is smokes. Smokes felt really rough. They were, if you were sitting in them, you could see out. But if you were outside of the smoke, you couldn't see in, so people were sitting in smoke, shooting out. It was kind of sucky. I did not like the 4-player squads. I thought that was a horrible change. 5-player squads, guys. Come on. Come on. 5-player squads is definitely where it needs to be, not the 4-player squads. The spawn and death screen, I think, need to have some additions to it. I'll do a video on this later, but it's definitely not in a good spot. I think it needs to be reworked, changed. It's not jarring, but it doesn't feel good going to the death screen at all. There's a lot of extra clicks there that you shouldn't have to have, and overall I think it just needs some tweaks to make it a little bit better. Movement felt really good. I think movement felt really fluid, and I think the squad streaks, the last ones, those felt pretty good. I think they need some tweaks on it to make them a little bit more useful for the team, but overall it did feel pretty darn good. So a lot of positive there, guys, coming out of this video. I will have some more negative stuff that I go into more in depth in some of my later on videos. I'm going to talk about gunplay, movement. I'm going to talk about the ammo and the medic, the reviving, a lot of stuff that's going to go into more in depth. Definitely the menus and the screens. So definitely look out for those videos. I appreciate you for watching. Hope you enjoyed the gameplay in the background, and we'll see you in the next video. Take it easy, guys.